I don't want to break this thing. Okay. I'd really like to go to the Grand Canyon. I've only been once when I was 7 on a road trip with my mom and my grandma, and we all caught a stomach bug, and it wasn't the best trip ever. Everything started out fine. Just a normal car trip through the mountains, the normal terrifying mountain curves that do not seem to be safe for regular people to drive on. They should be reserved for train park rangers and action movie stunt drivers, but certainly not my mother. Every bathroom rest stop in these mountains is basically a one-room creep shack with a toilet that doesn't flush, just drops straight into a hole in the side of a mountain. A massive, terrifying, disgusting hole that I was certain I was going to fall into. Before we were allowed to use these restrooms, my grandmother would go in first with her little toolkit of cleaning supplies. When I was allowed in to pee or poop, the area around the toilet and the sink glistened like they did at home. The rest of the bathroom was still covered in grime, and the scent of Lysol hung in the air. The scent of Lysol will always make me feel gross and a little scared. And I'm pretty sure it is because of these mountain bathroom trips. Things didn't start to go downhill until we actually got to the park. My grandma fell ill first, but my mom and I left her to her puking and went on hikes and saw sights and had a great time. There are several very cute photos from this day of little me posing with cool-looking rocks and my mom looking very 1980s. The next day, the bug came for me. The special kind of bug that gets you on both ends. Every 15 minutes or so, I found myself in the bathroom, watery pooping in the toilet and watery puking into a bucket. I really don't remember much about this part, but I think that's how it normally is. We forget the things that cause us pain or are uncomfortable, especially given enough time. I guess, though, eventually we really forget everything too, even the good stuff. The next thing I remember is being in the hospital, watery puking into a little tray shaped like a kidney bean, and thinking that they should just go ahead and give me a bucket because this little tray isn't going to hold everything coming out of me. Yes, that's right. I got to be hospitalized at the Grand Canyon. They even were considering getting a helicopter to take me to a larger one. So exciting. All of this made little me feel very special. No helicopter was in fact needed, and I rested up back at our cabin or whatever, and we left as soon as possible. Along the drive home, once we got to Albuquerque, the bug came for my mother. Perhaps she thought her mother's superpowers would protect her, but they did not. We had to spend a couple of nights there while she puked and pooped before we could get back on the road. I probably wouldn't have remembered much about this trip at all because I spent most of it expelling fluid from my body, and who wants to remember that? But years later, I was going through some of my grandmother's things, and I found a little notebook titled Grand Canyon Trip. Jackpot. I was excited to see what kind of travel notes she had taken, or maybe memorabilia tucked inside. Maybe there was even little memorabilia tucked inside, little park tickets, or one of those souvenir pennies from the machines that smush them into other shapes. I can't help myself. I love that kind of nerdy stuff. I opened it up, and I felt a little thrill. It always feels that way to go through other people's things, even if they are innocent as this. Inside were pages and pages of notes. 12:15 a.m. Emily threw up and had diarrhea. I'm stuck. Sorry, guys. 12:56 a.m. Emily had diarrhea. 1:45, Emily threw up only. 3 a.m., Emily threw up and had diarrhea. My grandmother, had kept detailed notes of every time I got sick, which end it came out of, what time, and even the consistency. I know that this is probably a good thing to do, especially seeing as how I ended up being hospitalized, and they probably wanted this info, and apparently I was indeed very, very sick. But finding this journal was a crushing disappointment and brought with it a strange, special kind of shame. The nostalgic shame that makes no sense because this happened over 20 years ago, but you just can't keep from feeling it. It just comes. So, yeah, I want to go back to the Grand Canyon because the only time I went, the most memorable thing, the only lasting memento we have, is a written record of my pukes and my poops, and I think I can do better than that.